welcome to City Council. Appreciate everybody being here and being on the airwaves and on the phones. If you are looking at the agenda, any item that's on the agenda may be taken out of order, and two or more agenda items could be considered, could be combined, and any item on the agenda may be removed, or related discussion may be delayed at another time, to another time. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and Madam City Clerk, posting and roll call.
Yes, thank you. The agenda was posted in accordance with open meeting law, and we have all members present except for member Matt Fox is absent.
Thank you. And we would now like to have Bishop Dave Randall from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints offer the invocation. We can all stand for that and the subsequent Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Our kind and gracious Father in heaven, we come before thee at the beginning of this city council meeting, and to pause and to invoke thy Spirit and invite thy Spirit to be here among these proceedings and to inspire and direct. We're grateful, Father, for the peace and prosperity that we as citizens of this community enjoy, and for the beauty that surrounds us here in Boulder City. We acknowledge thy hand in the beauty of the earth and our neighbors and our fellow citizens, and we pray that that thou would bless the leaders of our community, those who serve in elected position, and those who serve as employees, and those citizens of Boulder City who donate their time and talents in a dedicated fashion, and pray that thou bless them, each one of them, and for their service and their goodness. We pray for that the proceedings of this meeting will run smoothly, that those who speak and present will be able to speak clearly, and that we will conduct ourselves with love and with civility and friendship to all. And we ask these blessings and offer this gratitude in the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Please stay rising for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any public announcements, Madam City Clerk?
No announcements.
So we'll now go to public comment, and if you can come forward for public comment, sign in. And if you want to call in, 702-589-9629. You can start calling in now so that they'll be ready. I think maybe there's a public comment about when the stars will align.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is James Adams. Let me first apologize for being unable to. I wanted to take the time to congratulate the city on the formal award of $2 million. City staff and Boulder City residents like Ashley Pipkin grant are owed a tremendous amount of gratitude. Not only has the support of our state and federal governments, but most importantly, the support of Boulder City residents, as is evidenced in the night sky survey results. When I first set out to address the increasing issue of light pollution, I was always met with the same response. Wish we could, simply can't afford to do anything about it. Now that those monetary constraints have been significantly loosened, all that remains is the will to do something about it. As our City Council, how the city moves forward with its public lighting policy will ultimately be up to you. However, it is clear that a number of our residents are being negatively impacted by our current lighting, which can impact the overall health and safety of our community. There is no reason why we as a city cannot enhance our public lighting to improve the health of our community and protect our view of the night sky while still allowing for decorative and holiday lighting. I strongly encourage our council to accept this grant so that we as a community can move forward toward a healthier and appropriately brighter future. Thank you so much, council. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Anyone else on the phone?
No.
Anyone here who would like to say something about when when the planets are aligned? Yes, there is somebody.
My name is Ashley Pipkin, and I'm a resident of Boulder City, for the record. Hello again to Councilwoman Jorgensen, and sorry to miss Councilman Fox, but I presented to you first in September of 2021 and then again in June of 2022. This is my first time attending a meeting with Mayor Hardy, so hello Councilman Walton, and hello Councilwoman Booth. In those first two presentations, we discussed the benefits of appropriate city planning when it came to outdoor streetlights. We agreed that buying lights off the shelf was not the best approach and that we should consider outdoor streetlights that fit community needs. To understand what was right for the community, I was awarded a fellowship to work with Boulder City, and right now that's Joe Stubitz, and the Chamber of Commerce, and right now that's Joe Lagan, to find out what the appropriate city lighting was and how to implement and pay for lighting that fit the community by creating a lighting management plan. The recent community survey sent by the city manager shows that the community supports the implementation of night sky friendly lighting. It should be noted that night sky friendly lighting is actually not very different than the lights we have been using for the past 30 years and still have right now in the majority of locations throughout Boulder City. The lights we will buy with this grant will be more energy efficient than the old lights and more controlled and directed. The grant lighting is different than the newer lights Boulder City has purchased because it creates less glare and it will be more customized to Boulder City's needs. This EDA grant that we worked on with the Nevada Division of Outdoor Recreation with support from city staff and the Chamber of Commerce will provide the city with the opportunity to purchase all of the Cobra headlights and post-top lights that we own. This $1.9 million grant is a great way to improve lighting and reduce maintenance costs. We get reimbursed for these lights if the city installs them, and this is a great opportunity to reduce energy costs, make our community more welcoming, improve historical setting, increase property values, improve safety, and of course enhance our ability to admire the beautiful desert night sky, planets, Milky Way, everything in Boulder City, and expand our outdoor recreation economy at a time when traditional forms of outdoor recreation from boaters at Lake Mead are declining. I hope that you will support resolution number 7602, a resolution of the City Council of Boulder City, Nevada, to accept the Nevada Division of Outdoor Recreation grant in the amount of $1,927,800 for the Boulder City Dark Sky Lighting Infrastructure Project.
Thank you. Anyone else having public comment? Anyone on the phone line? Thank you. We'll move on for possible action or approval of the regular agenda.
I move to approve the regular agenda.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And then we'll have possible action, approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman?
I would like to make a motion to approve it with one exception,
Okay.
that we remove item 3, Resolution 7602, to the regular agenda, please.
And is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
We can just do it?
can we move that to regular business so that we can have the presentations proceed first, and then we'll hear that item?
that the maker of the motion's desire?
That is amenable, yes, thank you.
And seconded.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. So item 3 has been moved to the regular business, and that would be at the top of the regular business. And is there, so we'll move to the consent agenda as, without number 3 on it. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mayor, Councilmember Walton's motion, I believe, was to approve the consent agenda with the...
It is done. Thank you. And then we'll go to the presentation from Vegas PBS regarding their new workforce programming.
Thank you so much for letting us come to talk about our workforce program. Juan's going to do a presentation, but very briefly, I'm Allison Loftus with Vegas PBS. I'm a coordinator at the workforce department, and I know it sounds strange to have a workforce department inside a PBS station, but we are indeed one, and we're the only one in the United States. And
I'm Juan Rangel from Vegas PBS as well. I'm a coordinator there. As Allison was saying, we're the only PBS station in the country that has an active, fully functional workforce department. In my presentation, we'll go over our grant that we received, along with other programs that would benefit the residents of Boulder City and the community of Boulder City as well. So most people know Vegas PBS for our programming. You know, I grew up on Sesame Street myself and Electric Company, and these are some of the shows that most people know us for now. I'd like to talk to you what's beyond the broadcast. As I mentioned earlier, we're the only PBS in the country that has a fully functional workforce. Our workforce started approximately 10 years ago, or after the recession. We received a grant either to start programming, either a program on discussing how to put people back to work, but we instead decided to do a workforce program or workforce department. My director was then hired from the CSN. She was director of workforce at CSN at the time and began our program. As I mentioned earlier, we recently received a grant from the city of Las Vegas and one from Clark County to exceed $1 million to implement a program called Jobtimize. Part of my presentation will discuss what Jobtimize is, and then we could a further on conversation can also discuss how we could help your residents or business owners within the community of Boulder City. So Jobtimize is an online assessment that has 3 different portals. It has a job or student portal. It also has a career advisor portal and an employer portal. They're all fully integrated with each other for the purpose of identifying fit. Talking to employers across our valley and across the country, one of the biggest challenges that we have is identifying fit. And why is that so important? You know, most people can go into a job. You know, a lot of students go into a position or a job that they knew because their parents did it or because their friends are doing it. But what about identifying a job for fit? And what our assessment does, it measures 25 different traits. It's been developed by psychologists and measures 25 different traits. Concurrently, it also assesses a profile of every job that's in ONET. ONET is a database managed by the Department of Labor, which has over 25 different industries and over 2,100 jobs within those industries. Every one of the positions in ONET has been profiled as well for fit. So basically what it does, it identifies the individual student, their profile, then it picks the positions from ONET that they're the best fit for. Then it creates a list for the student or job seeker of positions they can research. The system is fully integrated through ONET, so they can search for jobs in ONET, can research the jobs in ONET. It also is integrated with Indeed, Glassdoor, any of the job searches. So, for example, let's just say we have a student that has a welder, you know, because not everybody's college bound. Some people are workforce bound. And let's just say a student has a welder and he wants to explore that position. He can go into the portal itself and click welder and research it in ONET to identify where the skills, what the average pay is in the community he's in or in a different state. And he can also go further and identify what the training requirements are. The second portal is also a workforce portal. The workforce portal is developed specifically for the workforce industry, people that work in nonprofits that help employees or students or not job seekers to find employment. It helps them basically manage the job seeker. The final portal is called the Talent Sorter or the Employer Portal. Now, our grant also covers that as well. And what the Talent Sorter Portal does, it enables small businesses or any business in general to download a position from ONET that's been profiled already. So for example, let's just say you own a construction company. Within your construction company, let's just say you had a framer and a salesperson opening. So you would download those positions from ONET that closely match it because it's already been profiled. You identify the questions to match the culture of your organization, and then you post a job through the Talent Sorter portal into whichever venue you want to. If you want to post it in Indeed or LinkedIn or Glassdoor, and then the job seeker would apply. Part of the application process would be completing the assessment. The employer then would have a report, which would include the resume, cover letters, letters of recommendation, whatever you ask for, and then also a fit report. The fit report will tell you if this person is a 75% fit, 85%, 95% fit for the culture, for the position. So you as an employer would have the ability to interview, to review the job, review the resume, and also have a fit score. It also provides you questions you could ask based off the way the individual answered the questions. This is a kind of an example of what ONET is. This is the welder's position in ONET. This is the Indeed that's fully integrated with all three portals. And there's some benefits. Some of the benefits that employers have by hiring or using Fit for hiring, it reduces attrition and increases retention rate. Today when it takes anywhere between 2 to 3 months to train somebody, and then to lose them on the 4th or 5th month, you're having to start from square one. It definitely is a great benefit. Also, for companies that have a small HR department and may have an abundance of people that apply for a position, it helps. They can sort it by the fit score and identify the top candidates. So instead of reviewing 100 applications, they can review 25 or 10, depending on what score they want to choose. This is kind of the example of what the fit report would look like. In this example, this person is a 92% fit for this position. And it kind of shows you where the position was profiled. Everything in gray is where the psychologist has profiled the position. The little green arrows are where this candidate falls within that profile. So as you can see, they have a 92% fit, and then they have a 73% fit for critical thinking and reasoning. And these are the tools that are provided to the employer when they're hiring, if they're using the portal as well. We also have a catalog, we call it our career advisor, our career training programs. Our career training programs is a catalog of over 300 career certification programs. The certification programs are everything from certified medical billing and coding to PMP certification to SHRM certification, which is the human resource certification. We also have EKG technician. We have an abundance of IT courses to include all the CompTIA, A+, Network Plus, Security Plus. Over 300 of them are on the state ETPL, which means they're eligible for funding through WIOA, which are state funds, federal funds. The courses usually are between 6 months to a year and a half. They're all 100% online, so what that does for someone that either has an obligation or working or have children or are trying to balance multiple things, enables them to be able to attend the course and complete the courses at their own convenience. So it's a great tool. We have a very high graduation rate. When the student enrolls in one of our classes, they get assigned a course instructor, our career advisor, then they have our staff to assist as well as their career advisor that's funding the course. We also have a catalog, we call it our customized solutions, which include everything from food safety, sexual harassment, diversity, inclusion. We have OSHA 10 and 30. For companies that don't have a safety person assigned, we can help develop their safety program. So we have an abundance of safety courses to identify or help small businesses or any business in general to develop their safety program or OSHA programs. We also have leadership development programs as well within our catalogs. As I mentioned earlier, the advantages to our programs, you can learn anywhere and anytime. We also, at our biggest PBS located in our station, we also have a testing center. Our testing center, we can do high-set equivalency exams, which is basically your GED test. We do Parapro, which are the certifications required to work in Title I schools. We also have praxis for teachers, for people wanting to become teachers, or for teachers that have to redo their praxis. We also have various healthcare certifications. We do typing tests, work keys. Nevada is a work key state, so we do offer work keys. And then we also have Excel, and recently we did a National Elevator Inspector Certification Test. That one took him about 8 hours to complete. This is just kind of a quick roll-up of our various programs, to include our career training programs, our Jobtimize, our testing center, and our OSHA. One last catalog I didn't really mention is called our Lifelong Learning Catalog. Our Lifelong Learning Catalog is a catalog of over 1,000 different titles. It has everything from basic Excel to beginner Excel, intermediate Excel, expert Excel. They're basically self-development courses. There's cooking courses in there. There's exercise courses in there. Career exploration courses in there. These courses are approximately 6 weeks long. They're instructor-led, or the same courses can be self-paced at 3 months as well. We also have one called My Time English, which is a one-year program, and we've had a lot of success with non-English speakers to help them with attaining the English language. That kind of concludes my overall brief. Like I said, we did receive the grant. Our grant is we're able to implement Jobtimize in schools, nonprofits, and businesses, and qualifying businesses. Allison?
Yep, sure. So we're looking for guidance from you all, and if you have people who would fit the criteria A of the grant business-wise, please, I can leave our cards here, but send them our way. We have been able to, it's just Juan and myself, so we're trying to cover as much ground as we possibly can. As you know, Clark County is a big place. So we've been able to do 2 free portals for 2 Henderson businesses, women-owned so far. And Juan has been able to do countless nonprofits to get it into some nonprofits, and we're still looking to get into some schools too. So we're looking for guidance from people like yourselves to help us get to the businesses and the core groups like the nonprofits and the students as well, so that we can use the grant as wisely as they're trusting us to do.
When we initially applied for this grant, we were going to implement it in every junior high school and high school in Las Vegas or Clark County for the purpose of giving parents, school counselors, and students an additional tool. So at 7th and 8th grade is when students are identifying their CTE programs when they're going to high school. And this would give them an ability to identify career paths that the students may not have even known, or the parents would even known exist, but career paths that would be a good fit based off their behavior traits, not based off what they've seen on TV or what their parents have done or what their uncles do. So it gives them more options. Definitely is a tool that provides opportunities by providing them more options, especially with careers that they never even thought of.
Yeah, we can provide you all with an assessment so you can see if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing in this world. We'd be happy to share it.
I think this works out well because Clark County School District is listening back there.
Hi,
Thank you.
coworker. Because we're part of the school district as well, Vegas PBS. So anyway, if you have any questions, we're here. However, if not, like I said, I can leave our information.
Questions? Go ahead.
Questions, comments, a whole bunch of different things. I was at least a little perplexed when I first got this, and I thought, PBS and job workforce, what does it have to do with all creatures great and small? But obviously, it has a lot to do with it, and I was explaining to you how excited I was because this, my parents were teachers, henceforth I was a teacher, because that's what I knew. Not to say that I didn't love it, since you're back there, but I did love it. But I do think that this is a missing element in Clark County that could possibly bridge some gaps from Voc Rehab, I told you that, to, I'm glad to hear, one of my questions was, are you working with students at CCSD? Because I would think if I was a student and I didn't feel like college was the place I wanted to go next, I would be asking myself, where do I go next? I think this could offer hope when you open up the portal and you see, wait, there's some options. And hopefully you have in there earning potential of those options so they understand what that means.
Right, so one of the great tools that I like about this, 'cause I do a lot of the work with the students and the nonprofits, is that when they go into ONET lets you actually select a position and actually select a city or state or whatever, or a different region, identify the different salaries, and it'll give you a graph. The Department of Labor is the one that tracks ONET. It'll give you a graph of beginning salary and high salary and where you are for your region or your city. So it does give you earning potential, the ability to research earning potential.
That's great. And I was looking, I saw job seekers, students, and I saw the in-between. I was wondering how many participants so far have been on the job seeking end, and maybe how many employers do you have that are stakeholders so far in this?
It's, you probably have, Juan probably has far more because of the nonprofits. The businesses are slowly coming along. But like I said, we also, in addition to the grant funds that we're trying to administer and administer it out for smaller businesses, we also have the ability to sell it to larger businesses. So we've put a couple proposals forward with a couple companies that you may know of here in town, Helix and Hilton Grand Vacations, because their problem is, they can't find employees. And once they do find employees, they can't retain the employees. So the companies that size are spending almost $40,000 to $45,000 per job to keep somebody for 3 or 4 months. And we are now talking to them with regard to how that is probably just not advantageous to them. And they're understanding that Jobtimize is going to help mitigate some of that stuff too. And what I'm learning too, in the business world too, is the retention side. But there's usually 1 or 2 hiring managers for all these larger properties. And I think that was new to me too. So to be able to sort of segment some of the resumes that have a job fit, they get 2,000 resumes and 150 pop into sort of their criteria, 75% or more. They only have to review that many as opposed to looking through the 1,000. So it's a time-saving technique as well too, for a lot of these people that we're talking to. But I will say this though, with the grant, the realization of the grant, it's for 2 years and we're done on December 31st, 2024, and our obligation to both the county and the city is, I think, 200,000 people. 200,000 people have to be actively using Jobtimize as per the grant criteria for both those entities, the city and the county. So I don't know how many we have thus far. We're moving as fast as we possibly can to get people to use it. So we can probably report back, I would think, maybe in the next couple of months or so if you want some stats back.
I think I'd be pretty excited to see how this is going, and to see where you started, because it probably seems pretty daunting at this point, and to see who you were able to help, both on both sides. I can only see this being an opportunity for both sides to be successful.
Yeah, and we're extremely lucky too, because we've partnered with a lot of, like Jill from Boulder City. We're working with Jill, we're working with the Asian Chamber, we're working with the Latin Chamber, we're working with Nevada Business and Industry, working with the SBA, because on that side, they're helping us find the businesses. So, we're only sort of, again, there's only so much ground we can cover, but if you multiply it by 10 or 12 entities that are helping us, we're getting there a little bit quicker, so.
Yeah, some of the nonprofits that have signed up with us, some of them signed up before the grant. So like CLPC, which is a nonprofit called Chicano por las Casas, and they're in various states. We have Boys and Girls Club who just signed up. In fact, I'll do their training next week, I believe, on the 4th or 3rd. They're going to implement it in all their different locations, not only for the students, but also available to the parents and also for their current workforce, because a big portion of their workforce are only there seasonal. A lot of them are juvenile, so he wants to use it to help them identify career paths once they're ready to move on from the Boys and Girls Club. So, we have also Hope for Prisoners. They're using it with their reentry population as well. So we're working with the various nonprofits and everything from kids to adults. So it's really, it's kind of a really rewarding. It's really nice to see organizations use it. And we have a lot more to go. Like I said, we just started in January.
And ultimately, we want to make it sort of a full circle. We have individuals taking the individual assessment. They now will be sort of in the Jobtimize system. So if we do sign on companies, they will know who these people are because they've already been vetted. We have a large group of people who have been our students through the past 10 years or so. They're a part of our system too. So we're also looking to sort of partner with businesses when they have job announcements. So we can take those forward and announce to the people who have been through our system, whether it be job demise or training or whatever the case may be. So we're trying to be a little more full service, and I think we're going to get there, but it's again, we're trying to circle it all back too. So,
We're
we're
also-
open to
yeah.
suggestions if you have any.
We're also providing some job fairs as well.
Oh, that's true, that's true, that's true. We went to the Clark County Job Fair to sort of see how that was working, and we're gonna put our own together at this, our station has we have a lot of land in our television station, so we're gonna do one at our station as well in July, we believe. So,
Nice, thank you.
you're welcome, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilman?
If I may, please. Thank you for your presentation. Thanks for being here. I do have a handful of notes here. And I'll try and keep them, pertinent to maybe what might be helpful. What does an individual need to do to qualify to participate in this program?
I mean, individuals, if there's somebody who wants to take the assessment that's sort of not part of a business or a nonprofit, we can send individual assessments out, and then they will become part of the system. So it's just a matter of sort of getting in touch with one of us so we can send the assessment out to you, as well, too. We would be happy to do that.
Okay, so, you're not in the schools integrated quite yet, so there may be, and I'll start there. There's a whole lot of other folks that aren't school age that might be interested, but.
Right, so on our website, the workforce link, there is a link for anybody in the public to take the assessment free of charge. If somebody, let's just say a resident of Boulder City or any resident takes the assessment on our link, and then is getting services from a career advisor, a nonprofit career advisor or someone that has a portal, then we can do is transfer it from ours into the career advisor portal, wherever is handling their case. So we do have the ability to transfer individuals from portal to portal, and it does create a tracking mechanism. So we can identify where do they start and where do they end up.
Yeah, there's a lot of groups that you could coordinate with,
We'll definitely love to do presentations.
And I heard, the handful that you've already mentioned, both to attract businesses as well as employees. I didn't hear religious groups, which also are a great community partner.
Definitely,
Right.
we're open to presenting to anybody that's working to help their residents and the residents of Clark County.
Right, yeah.
For us, through the throes of it are younger people trying to find a career, people who are sort of ready to somewhat retire to figure out what their next career could be. So this is in any age appropriate for people who are kind of just looking to kind of get some data about who they are and where they think they want to go at any age. So we're open to that suggestion as well.
Right. In fact, one of our clients is a group called VST, Veterans Stand Together. And what they do, they help transitioning veterans, either someone is transitioning or someone as a veteran 10 or 15 years ago, identify career paths. So like Allison said, this has developed everything from as early as the 7th and 8th grade to adults that are finding themselves trying to reinvent themselves and identify where do I go next.
Yeah. Great plan, great ideas so far. Another one that I thought of that we hold near and dear to our community heart is the drug court, right? And you mentioned you have the Prison Connect or whatever that term was. But I know locally that you were thinking that same thing, Judge, that, there's the life stability that we are hoping for folks that are entering the systems that just for lack of direction and potential career, have challenges. So another
That would be
idea.
perfect, yeah. Like
Yeah.
I said, right now we have two of our clients are Hope for Prisoners, and also we work a lot with the students at Spring Mountain Youth Camp. Those are the children that are incarcerated for
Awesome
less than a
ideas.
year.
Is there any special thing an individual has to do to qualify to participate?
On the business side, to get the free portal, you have to be a smaller business. The grant really is for small businesses who have been hit with COVID sort of issues and things of that nature, and hiring. What they have to do is they have to have a hiring plan in place. We're looking for a 12-month, 18-month, because sometimes a small business can do a 12-month, 18-month might be a little bit, but we work with every business to make an assessment to see if they qualify for it. So I met with somebody a couple weeks ago, and she has a lot going on, but no intention to hire anybody for maybe another year or so. So we'll revisit her in a year or so. I met with a company in Henderson, it's called HotWorks, and it's a Pilates, hot yoga Pilates studio. They have to hire 10 people in the next, like, 2 months. So they automatically qualified because at the end of the day, the grant really wants us to fulfill. We want people working and we want people to retain those jobs as well, too. So we would have to do an assessment, but, we have sort of some latitude with regard to how that works. But we really have to sort of talk about how many jobs they're looking at fulfilling and what their plan is. So that's really the core of it on the business side.
So on the employer side, you're not looking for large corporations
They
necessarily?
wouldn't qualify. They would be somebody we would sell to, because we can
Right.
sell the product as well, because we're trying to
Ah.
offset some of the costs of the selling it to the largers, if you will, to then sort of be able to
I
provide it
see.
to the
Okay.
smaller businesses when the grant runs out.
I see.
So we're trying to balance a couple different things.
But with the larger companies, it's pretty affordable, the price of a
Yeah.
portal, compared to what it costs to hire, let's say, a C-suite person, right? The amount of money and time it costs to hire a C-suite person and retain them, it's really pennies on the
Yeah, the average
dollar.
that's spent on hiring somebody at a $40,000 to $50,000 job is about $45,000 per employee. The average I don't know the exact number, but to hire someone at $75,000 or above is probably going to be obviously higher than that. And that's per one hire. So you're talking about expending $40-some thousand to hire somebody that you're going to pay $50,000 to, and cross your fingers that they're going to stay.
Does the grant allow for wage supplemented internships so that once they do their online learning or whatever learning, that they can actually go and do an internship, and maybe an employer might say, yeah, you can come work for me and you can learn the trade and see if you like it. And if there's a supplemented wage that the employer only has to pay, a portion, 50 or 75% of the wage rather than 100%, they might bring somebody on board as an internship, right?
There's programs, I think, within the county confines and the state confines that can help with certain internships and things of that nature.
But that's not part of this.
Not part of this,
Okay.
no. No,
Okay.
but we do have outreach to other people who can perhaps maybe put some supplemental things together as well. Again, we try to be pretty well in tune to what other departments, especially the state, are doing, because they sort of have the dollars, and that's where the WIOA training comes in for the training classes and things of that nature, too. We always try to find a way to make things fit.
Yeah, in fact, earlier this morning, I was actually presenting to a nonprofit that works with the high schools and all 72 I believe she said 72 high schools. And then she was like, this is what I like to do with your program, is we do the assessment and then do some kind of internship to put the students into these work, mirror a life, maybe 5 days or 10 days or whatever, so they can see, hey, this is a career for me. Because after a few days or a few weeks of doing this career, they may realize it's not for them. Let's just say a welder, right? Someone may say, hey, I want to be a welder. You marry them up with a welder, and if it doesn't work out, then they can start again. But yeah, in fact, she was mentioning that, so it's kind of interesting that you said that.
That's all that I had. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I think what he's trying to say is he would love to work with you.
Definitely, we're open to working with whoever's would like to reach out to us.
I'll leave cards before we go.
Appreciate
too.
that.
So, yeah,
Thank
but
you.
we're more than happy to work with anybody who sort of thinks that they may have some fits for us too. And happy to do presentations too in front of groups that you may think would be appropriate for, what we're doing as well.
And in our minutes, we'll have the contact information.
Thank you so much,
you.
Mayor.
Thank
and
you.
Thank
Assembly.
you. Nice to see you.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Thank you. And then we have another presentation with Clark County School District.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Deanna Jaskolski. I proudly serve as the Region Superintendent for Region 3, which encompasses Boulder City. This evening, there are no status updates to share related to the compliance with NRS 388G 500-820. I know the report was submitted. It does have Boulder City achievement data as well as comparison data for our other municipalities. So I know that you've received that report. And I have updates to share from our 4 remarkable schools here in Boulder City. So start with our youngest at Mitchell Elementary School. So on the 3rd, they had their Leadership Day where 60 community members were attending the event. They had a student who led the program, who also led the student tours in classrooms and presentation by students in grades K2 of their leadership notebooks. And every student has a leadership notebook in which he or she tracks their personal as well as achievement and academic goals. And I will share that on their most recent winter MAP interim assessment, which they take in the fall, the winter, and the spring at Mitchell Elementary School, 81% of their students demonstrated overall proficiency in reading. So we know by them setting and tracking their personal and academic goals is paying off. Their wildly important goal is 100% of their students will grow on their MAP reading proficiency by May 2023. And when you walk into their schools, that is displayed in their multipurpose room. 80% of their students demonstrated proficiency on the winter MAP assessment in math. And one of their second grade students, Davis Guswhite, was the introductory speaker at the Western Regional Leader in Me Symposium. And as a second grade student, he spoke to over 500 educators from around the country of how he uses Habit 2, begin with the end in mind, to accomplish important goals in his young life. They also had 4 of their parents participate in the session for Leader in Me, which they answered questions from educators and how the leadership culture at Mitchell Elementary School has positively influenced their families and their children. At Martha P. King Elementary School, we're very proud to say in tracking students that fall under the 40th percentile, so those students that are not proficient in the MAP assessment, and taking a look over time in the last 3 years, that they are proud to see that they've seen a consistent reduction over the years in those students in the 40th percentile in the winter benchmark, and the reduction of 11% is going to be even larger in the spring assessment. So they're very proud of their academic work and growth. In addition to that academic growth in the area of math, they've also seen great strides in social emotional learning. Using our Panorama survey data, they have seen a 10% increase in the category of sense of belonging, telling us that their students at King are feeling very valued and supported, which of course will lead to a more supportive student-focused climate and ultimately continuing on that higher student achievement progress. At Garrett Junior High School, Student Council, National Junior Honor Society, and other leadership students were able to travel to Disney and participate in their leadership workshop to learn the Disney way. Their girls basketball team was the Division II runner-ups and had a very successful season. Soccer season is kicked off for boys and girls, and thus far they are undefeated. The band and choir participated in the Advanced Band Festival and All-City Music Festival. They celebrated their teachers on Valentine's Day with a love lunch, and their winter MAP scores also demonstrated significant growth within those students that are approaching the standards, so those that are approaching becoming proficient. The STEM Leaders Academy finished their final workshops with the STEM Leaders Development Program. They're now working on their strategic plan for implementation and writing the grant to become a governor's designated STEAM academy. And with Boulder City High School, the flag football team won their academic state championship for 3A schools of having the highest collective GPA. Girls bowling was a 3A state runner-up in the winter season. Their Winter Guard team placed first at Sunrise Mountain competition on Saturday. They earned the highest score in Boulder City High School Winter Guard history. And lastly, their cheer team traveled to Disneyland and led the parade at Disneyland. Thank you very much for the honor and opportunity of sharing highlights from the remarkable schools and our leaders here in Boulder City. And with that, any questions that you may have?
Any questions?
I have some.
Go ahead.
As I was reading through the reports, a couple things stood out to me that kind of shocked me, that we have 21 homeless children in Boulder City High School. I just thought that was sad. And then, in fact, I wanted to go out and become a foster parent this weekend after reading it. And that are in our science, grade 10, that only 12.6 children are proficient. How do we fix some of this? In math, in grade 11, only 36.8% in Boulder City are proficient. So how can we solve some of these problems? How do you foresee changing some of these numbers?
Oh, thank you for the question, Councilwoman Booth. With the high school achievement in science, so there is a pandemic effect with this particular level of proficiency. So that assessment is typically taken as a grade 9 student, even though it's called the 10th grade proficiency. So because of the pandemic, we had a much larger number of students take that assessment in grade 10, which then means that they were a year out from that content. So that we can account for some of the decline in that proficiency, because when you looked overall at the data, that was the only assessment, assessment as well as grade level that you did see a decline in Boulder City. So to work through that, we are focused very strongly on what's called the Nevada Academic Content Standards, and ensuring that our teachers are teaching to that intent and the rigor of that standard, and that the tasks that they're asking the students to do are aligned to that end assessment. So they don't all of a sudden become, take that assessment and what they've participated in their courses aren't rigorous. And so this data really was to highlight the work that we do need to do, in particular in the science. With math, that we are very happy with the state dollars through the ESSER funds. The district received $777 million. With that, we were able to purchase materials, math instructional materials for the first time as a district. Due to the underfunding that we've received, we haven't been able to do that at the district level. Each individual school may have had the opportunity if they had extra funds. So I say all that to say, to combat where we're seeing the proficiency levels where they need to be much, much higher than they are, that we now have instructional materials will then account for the rigor within the classroom, is also provide the teachers the opportunity to share best practice within the school as well as within the district. So when we meet as a Region 3 team with our high school principals, our focus is on that professional learning communities around our Tier 1 instructional materials to best support our students in class. So for the first time that we do have those common materials to have those conversations to address these concerns that you brought forth.
And the homeless, what do you do as a school district? What can we do as a community towards the homelessness of these children?
So we have a department within the school district, our Title I Hope Department, that works under the McGinty-Vento Act to provide support for those students. So for example, if they were to need to move to another location or school, we'd provide transportation and support for that child to have that stability at that school. There's multiple wraparound services within the district that's provided, whether that be social works, whether that be food services, clothing services, things of that nature, that is a district that provides. And then as well as our individual schools that provide support and stability. So Boulder City High School and our middle school and elementary schools that provide support and stability, to the best that they can with the 6 hours and 11 minutes that they have the students.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for finding the positives in our Boulder City school achievements and improvements and all the activities. We do need to look for those silver linings, because I, with Council Member Booth, recognize that there are some low proficiency numbers. In addition to those that were mentioned, the SAT numbers are not great either. So we hope to see some action, definitive action, and plans to help all of our students across the county, right, but here in Boulder City, improve their proficiencies in those areas, which are really our college readiness indicators, right? But I'm going to come back to your first comment about AB 394, which I'm guessing that precipitated your visit here tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you said there was no
380
update.
Go ahead. NRS
394, I'm sorry.
388G. That's okay, just to make
Okay.
sure I'm on the right.
Well, I mean, in our overview on our agenda, AB 394 for the plan and recommendations
Yes.
to reorganize the Clark County School District into local precincts.
Yes.
So, being new, not having heard any of the prior reports, as succinctly as possible, has there been any substantive discussion as indicated by that piece of legislation in that vein?
So, yes, my visit is precipitated by the NRS, and so I do come quarterly to present any updates on NRS 388G and the school district's compliance with that, school highlights, and then any other the submission of the report, school highlights, and then any partnership with Boulder City and the school district to then provide a report on. And so within the municipality reports that you'll receive, it's delineated by achievement data, chronic absenteeism, behavioral data, and then we have a calendar that which data is presented at each quarterly report. So it is presented to our school district school board prior then to being presented to the municipalities. So once it's presented to the school board, then the liaison, your city clerk, receives the municipality report by municipality, and then I come quarterly to answer whatever questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. I may be mistaken then, because I thought you were here to talk about AB 394, not 388G.
I think AB 394 was codified as NRS 388G.
Okay.
Yeah,
thank
AB
you.
394 was passed in, I think, 2015.
Okay,
And
thanks.
that's
Thanks for that
correct. Yeah.
clarification. So the question is, has there been any substantive discussion about a plan and recommendations to reorganize the school district into local precincts?
That's not the purpose of my visits. My visits within AB 469, NRS 388G is to provide the quarterly update and reports.
Okay, fair enough. Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you for coming and giving us updates. It is a big school district. When I attended, it was much smaller, that's for sure. When I taught, it was much smaller, continues to grow. And inherently, there's some difficulties that we inherit with that because of the size. One of my questions is, I know that we received some extra funding, you did as Clark County School District, right? To be able to, hopefully, be able to gap or fill these gaps. I know that you said you bought curriculum. What other ways has that money been distributed here to Boulder City to be able to fill those gaps? Is there any tutoring and any supplementation, any looking at those students who are just on the cusp to be able to get them a little bit higher, and then also those that need complete remediation?
So thank you for the question, Councilwoman Jorgensen. So yes, in addition to the Tier 1 instructional materials for math, for science, world languages, history, and then our English language arts will be coming on board next year. Our elementary schools did receive a per pupil allocation to be able to provide support exactly for the students that you described.
What about support? Because I know that we have a hard time hiring, keeping highly qualified teachers. And then when we do not have them, we have a hard time with substitute teachers and finding enough. And oftentimes in our classrooms, we find teachers selling preps to be able to go into classrooms to cover an hour here or an hour there, thus preventing, I think, top-level education in that area, more babysitting possibly. Sorry, so is there extra funding that's going to be going towards that to incentivize the top teachers to stay, substitutes to want, or people to want to come sub for the school district? Because I know we hire a lot out of country.
Yeah, so at this point, our Chief Human Resource Officer, Dr. Carol Tolks, is taking a look at our compensation packages as a whole, just for that exact reason, for incentivize, also for the retention component as well.
Okay, because I just think with a little bit of money floating around, and I know we always talk about the long term, well, then it has to be sustainable for the next year when ARPA runs out or when we don't get that from the governor or whatever happens. But clearly, to have highly educated children, they need, well, first off, they need some stability. That means a teacher that stays in there or a teacher that understands. I mean, if you put a long-term sub in there, you could quite possibly have someone who doesn't really understand science, and they're a long-term sub trying to teach that. And I'm sure you've crossed that bridge a couple times, and you know what that looks like. It's hard. It's probably a real battle. So I would look forward to us seeing one more year of data. I recognize, and this is something that when I taught, it was hard for me, teaching to the test. That's kind of a hard thing to talk about, but it's a reality, right? If the only way we're assessing them are specific tests, a lot of times we teach towards that test, meaning that that's all we teach them, whatever they're going to be assessed with on the test. So I look forward to the next year to see if we rise even higher post-pandemic, because I do believe that that gap in there that you talked about is pretty large. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you see Boulder City Schools, for instance, decreasing in enrollment? And is that a common thread throughout Clark County?
Mayor Hardy, I don't have the enrollment numbers, but I can certainly provide that information to you.
Okay.
I don't want to misspeak.
Appreciate it. We do appreciate the open zoning, as it were, because we have students come from Henderson, for instance, and we appreciate them being able to be on our teams and be in our community.
Yeah.
So that has helped our enrollment. We appreciate that. Any other questions or observations? Thank you very much.
Thank you for the
Appreciate it.
opportunity. I greatly appreciate
Thank
it.
We will move to number 3 on our agenda, which is the dark sky lighting. Utility Director Joe Stubitz is going to enlighten us. Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Good afternoon. So just before I start, I know we heard from PBS, but on PBS's website, how to spot 5 planets in the sky this week: Mars, Uranus, Venus, Mercury, and Jupiter, right after the sunset tonight in the western sky, which is just after 6:58 p.m. So hopefully we'll get a chance to see the natural night sky in that way. So kind of moving to the resolution now. This is kind of the next step. This grant was awarded last September by the Nevada Division of Outdoor Recreation through the Economic Development Administration, that federal agency. So this resolution before you, Resolution 7602, is a sub-grant for the city to receive the funds that the state has received. So in that amount of $1.9 million and some change, and our matching contribution is $617,898. Part of that is equipment and labor, and another portion of that is RTC funding. So, from my perspective, this is really a win-win for Boulder City. We have infrastructure that needs to be replaced. It's using more resources than needed. And when we replace that, it's kind of a patchwork that you'll notice in certain parts of town where there's some older lights, and then pop, 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 there's some newer lights, and then there's some lights that go out. So this will give us the opportunity to really kind of take segments of town, and it'll be all new, and the LED lights use less energy, they last longer, and they produce more night sky friendly ratings so you can view the natural night skies. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Mayor. I asked for this to come to the regular business so that, we can kind of take those comments or questions that we've had from the members of our community and address them. Sure. and alleviate any concerns that there might be. And is it Ashley? So when Ashley came up, I started to write down the what felt like about 10 or 12 positive aspects of this. I only got 3 of them actually written down. My handwriting isn't as fast as you're talking. But if we could maybe address those and just say specifically, it's safer because I think that's something that we've heard a lot about, right?
Sure.
The safety issue, whether it's actually more safe or not, and why and what that means to us. Preserving the historic nature of certain areas of town is certainly a positive. Of course, reducing energy costs. I think that's kind of gotten lost in the conversation over the months that we've been discussing this. So really to just give you the opportunity to highlight, and maybe Ashley could give you her list and you could go write down each one or both of you, Mayor, if you feel that's appropriate, and you could just kind of address those, and
Sure.
that might prompt other questions from council.
You know, from the safety standpoint, what makes the street light the safest is the uniformity. And so what that means is that the lights are consistent amongst the driver's view, you know, that you don't have a transition from, you know, a lower temperature light or a warmer light to a brighter blue light. So that transition is often like if you have a flashlight shown in your face, that glare, that's that change in uniformity. So when we're talking about safety along the roads, that's really what gives you that safety, is that uniformity.
As you go down the list, could you talk about both drivers and pedestrians?
Sure.
I think there's concern on both sides of that, so please. Thanks.
Yeah. So, you know, from the pedestrian point of view, that's the displacement of the light. So you want the light to shine, you know, on the roadway and not out beyond that. So if we have a pedestrian pathway on a particular segment of road, then we would choose the light that also helps to illuminate that portion of the path. So that's another key component in the selection of the light. So there's a rating that's called bug rating. It's a backlight, uplight, and glare rating. And kind of what's key for the natural night skies is to make sure that uplight rating is 0. And so the high pressure sodium lights that we currently have, they displace light in a 360 degree fashion, and so they're pushing the light up, which prevents us from viewing the natural night skies. So keep going. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, go ahead.
can Ashley come up with that list and let Joe talk about each of those?
This is great. Yeah, go for it.
I'll talk about lighting all day long.
Yeah.
Joe, you just want me to go?
So,
Okay.
so you talk faster, so
Okay,
you
I'll
can
talk
say whatever
slower.
you want about
Sorry.
how it works too. So, you know, Mr. Stubitz is going to be your assistant for the moment. How's that sound?
Okay, thanks so much. It's been so great to work with Joe. I've really enjoyed this opportunity to work with the city and explain and answer any questions you have whenever you have them.
Number 2.
Okay, so let me just go through my list. Reduce energy costs.
Number 3.
You want me to go to the next one? You understand that? Okay. Make our community more welcoming. You want me to go into detail on that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want it?
It's your call, sir. I'll leave it to you.
So in the making our community more welcoming, studies have shown that, I won't get into studies have shown. So when you go into a hospital, or this is actually not so bad. When you go into a hospital, they usually have bright white lights. They need to, you're a doctor. They need to be able to see.
You're talking my talk.
Yeah, every single thing. And then when you think about a firelight or candlelight or warmer light, that is more reflective of the community nature of a historic community, has a warmer color light. Traditionally, warmer color lights, people find them more welcoming whenever they go into an environment than bright white lights that provide a more sterile feeling environment, what you need in a hospital, but maybe not throughout a community.
Number 4.
Okay. So reduce energy costs, make our community more welcoming, improve historical setting. Those two are pretty hand in hand, improving historical setting. Increasing property values, that has to do with, they did a study for all IDA certified communities and compared them to communities right next to them that were not IDA certified. IDA is the International Dark Sky Association. So those communities that are International Dark Sky association certified, so that have night sky friendly and compliant lighting, those communities have higher property values than the communities right outside that do not.
Number 6.
Improve safety. So
Number
Joe
7.
did a great job. Enhance our ability to admire the beautiful desert night sky in Boulder City. And
Number 8.
that has, and expand the outdoor recreation economy at a time when traditional forms of outdoor recreation for boaters at Lake Mead are declining. That is the very specific reason that we got a travel and tourism grant from the Economic Development Administration, because they see astrotourism as a burgeoning form of ecotourism that we have, especially in the West. If you look at a map of the night sky throughout the whole entire United States, we live in very close to the very darkest skies in the lower 48. I know that that might sound crazy because Las Vegas is right there, but to my counterparts who study night skies, I can show them images, and I can share any of this with you. It gets very technical, but and it is our western sky, as you might imagine, not so great. But when we look to our eastern sky is really magnificent for being so close to Las Vegas. And we can all go out and look at it whenever you want. You can see, I walk out my door and I get to see Orion's Belt. That's amazing for a town that's relatively close to Las Vegas.
So did we do number 9? Now you're on number 10?
Oh, no, that's it. I'm just going on about the night sky now.
I know.
Okay. All right. And I can.
Did you go down your whole list?
Yeah, that was my whole. Those were all of my benefits
Anything
in that
else?
last sentence, and I
Councilman
can
Walton?
add to any of that if I didn't answer it sufficiently. Thank you, Joe.
I don't have any other questions. Yeah.
Okay.
Councilwoman Booth?
A lot of the people I spoke to, and this would be for you.
Okay.
They were concerned about safety because a lot of the walkers walk in the evening time. And could you explain, like you explained to me, about how it's going to make it safer to be able to walk and be able to see a snake on the asphalt over Lakeside or down Veterans, and the reason why?
So the reason for that would be the displacement of the light, to make sure that the light is targeted in the area that we want it to.
Because you have what on top of it?
The shield.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, there's a shield on it that directs that light down.
that's correct.
Yes. My last question would be, in our historic area, how are we going to change those lights? Like in my neighborhood, we have big street lights, and then we have the ones with the bulbs in them, and then you have a bulb over the top of it. What are you going to do to make those more historic?
So unfortunately, with the funding that's available in this grant, we won't be able to get to the historic lights, or what we call the acorn lights. The manufacturer, there's different manufacturers. Those particular lights are very expensive for the light themselves as well as the structure. And so what we're able to accomplish with the grant funding is the Cobra head, and they're called that because they kind of look like a Cobra head, and the pole mount luminaires, which are just the non-historic posts.
So you'll be coming into our neighborhood and changing out the Cobra heads, but not the historic lights?
Yeah. And if we're able to get to that, we certainly, with the funding available and prices come down, we certainly would look to do that.
That answers my 2 questions, because I think that was the biggest concern that I heard from people was, what about the rattlesnakes at dawn and dusk when I'm walking? So I think that answered that question for everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Go ahead.
About what percentage do you anticipate of the lighting in the city will be able to be covered by this?
It's over 80%. So we're estimating about 84% with the grant.
And it'll be all uniform, which will make us more welcoming.
Yes.
So that will be nice. We want to be welcoming. Also, expanding outdoor economy. is there any portion of the grant that requires us to show how we are expanding our outdoor economy, or is this just it by changing them out?
This is just it. The idea is that the grant itself will expand the outdoor economy. So the stipulations in the grant itself is for us to have that matching portion that I described with equipment, labor, and RTC funding, and just replacing those lights.
Great, where are you starting?
So the plan is to start, where you first come into town. If you're coming from outside of town, what you see would be Boulder City Parkway and Vets to Adams. There's 25 structures, 50 lights. A lot of them have been replaced. A lot of them are out. But the idea is to do that and then to kind of move on from there, and then to get areas along the lake as well.
Great, thank you.
Will be so much more welcoming.
Yes, I agree.
All right, thank you. Well, thank your lovely assistant too, Mr. Stubitz. We appreciate everybody.
All right.
Anything else? Okay, so I would accept a motion to pass resolution number 7602.
I make a motion to pass resolution 7603. 02? Oh, is it 02? I'm sorry.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passed unanimously. Thank you. We will move then to item number 8, which is a public hearing on the annexation, and that is proposed as on the agenda. So all those who would like to come, and Mr. Mays will present, and then we'll open it up for a public hearing after that. Mr. Mays.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of City Council. For the last 2 months, the city has been working on the annexation of approximately 2,500 acres in the El Dorado Valley. On the screen, you can see a map representing in the light purple the area in question. This land is owned by the BLM. It's all government property. And with its annexation, a majority of the land would remain as open space. Only 80 acres potentially could be the subject of a lease with the BLM for solar, but the balance will be preserved as open space. In order for Boulder City to annex this land, we are required to hold a public hearing. And so that's the purpose for this agenda item, is to allow the public to provide comments regarding the proposed annexation. And with that, I can answer any questions. Next steps in the process will be April 25th, bill introduction regarding the proposed annexation, and then council consideration of the proposed annexation on May 9th.
Anyone here, or are we allowed to have phone-ins for public hearing?
Yes.
Could you repeat the number?
Holly, would you mind putting the slide up? Thank you.
There we go, 702-589-9629. If anyone has comments, if there's anyone here in the room that would like to comment, this would be a good time to do it. And even if you don't have a comment while we're waiting for the phone, that would be okay too. While we're waiting, I think one of the questions that people have had is, what are we going to do with it? And so Mr. Mays has been very clear that 80 acres of the 2,555 could be solar expansion under the auspices of the BLM. Otherwise, it is reserved for open space. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mayor.
Thank you. See nobody on the phone line. I'll close the public hearing. And we will move on then. Thank you, Mr. Mays. And we'll now move to number 9. And this is the discussion about public memorials and monument policy. So this is not to say where something is going to be, but to feel if the policy that we've had in our packets has been appropriately done and is compatible with what we think should be done.
That is correct, Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'm Taylor Tedder, your city manager. First, I'll start with a little bit of background. At the April 26th, 2022 City Council meeting, council at the time directed staff to draft the formal guidelines regarding public monuments. The guidelines were to include elements such as the footprint and provisions for the appropriate city department review and city council review. So we drafted the guidelines and presented them to the Historic Preservation Committee and the Parks and Recreation Commission for their feedback. The minutes from those meetings are attached in your packet. The Parks and Recreation Commission recommended that appropriate locations within each area, whether it be parks, downtown, or the historic district, be predetermined for monuments. And the Historic Preservation Committee made a number of suggestions, and one of the board members offered to provide additional comments, which were provided, and we incorporated those. We also incorporated comments and suggestions from yourselves and several residents that had strong feelings about the policy. The draft policy has been reviewed by all of our management team, and the purpose of the Public Memorials and Monuments Policy truly is to just establish that clear, objective, and fair, robust process for responding to requests to install monuments and memorials on Boulder City-owned property, such as parks or right-of-way. The policy encourages commemoration while ensuring that it's fair and balanced when we're making decisions regarding the memorials. Before you, I do have 2 handouts here at the meeting. One is a red line from the version in your packet to version 19, that is the clean copy in your hand. For a majority of the changes, they were purely formatting and to promote the ease of readership of the policy. A couple of the bullet points were adjusted because they were duplicative. So under 9.2, Roman numeral 4, 5, and 6, those were struck as they were covered under the location section, which was previously mentioned earlier in the document regarding the similar language. The policy and the associated application does meet the criteria that was requested by council, and it does outline that entire application process for small memorials and large memorials, which the small memorials can be approved by the Parks and Recreation Director, and large memorials would go through a process where it would be evaluated by appropriate staff depending on what area of town, and then it would be reviewed by my office to then forward to the City Council, and then if it was within a historic district or a certain type of park, it would go to the appropriate board and commission for their approval. Recommendation, sorry. So the action before you tonight is to direct the city manager to move forward or not move forward with the policy implementation, and I stand for any questions you may have and look forward to moving forward with this process.
Any questions, comments, or suggestions? Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. Tedder, for version 19. And there's been a lot of community input, a lot of great suggestions from members of committees, commissions, and citizens, staff, and all of it has led to, what I think is a really good policy. My one request, Mr. Mayor, is since there's a fair amount, and I appreciate the fact that you said most of it is formatting, but I'd like, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, to request for 5 or 10 minutes recess so I can actually read the final product. I'm a little hesitant to vote on it without going through to see some of the comments and suggestions we talked about in our briefing are there and understood and clear. So that's my request.
We'll be in recess for 10 minutes.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime, anytime. I've heard.
we'll come and Mr. City Manager, you have anything you want to add after we've read through the proposed staff direction? And Councilman Walton, do you have anything?
I'll first defer to our city manager if he had anything. If not, then I'll proceed.
Yes, so we will add the subject of the memorial to the application so that it is clearer to people if they're just looking at the application that, you know, this has to be a person or group that's made an outstanding contribution to the cultural, political, social development of the city, state of Nevada, the United States, or international community, or commemorates a site or event that is historically or culturally significant or represents an important or unique city or civic anniversary. So we'd put that on the application so people know up front. If it doesn't fit within those guidelines, then don't, you know, move forward with the application. So that would make it clearer. We could also bolster that a little bit in the policy to make it stand out a little bit more as well.
Good addition, thank you. Anything else? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Tedder, for that adjustment. I think two very important parts of this for an applicant to kind of get the ball rolling, so to speak, is does the subject comply with what Mr. Tedder just outlined, and is the idea of the location consistent with the sections of the policy under 9 on page 6, location. I'd love to see both subject and location more prominently displayed in the policy, as well as even add location, a summary of it on the application, so that those are two very important processes to verify before, you know, beginning or continuing with the process. So that's all I have to say, other than, again, thank you for all of the Parks and Rec folks and historic preservation folks and staff and citizens that have provided input. I think it's great that we actually now have a policy that dictates this. So thank you.
Thank you.
I know initially when we first discussed monuments, we did ask about a policy, and we did talk about needing to establish this. That it's version 19 is actually, in my opinion, great, because that means that we listened to, we looked at, we heard a number of people, and we were really methodical and thoughtful in our process to come to this point tonight. So I mean, it's probably not good for you, and you're probably not overly excited that it was 19, but for me, this says to me that 19 times we tried to hear, address, and find something that fits for this community and who we are. So thank you very much for being willing to listen to all the input, to be able to process it, and to be able to come up with 19 versions.
Thank you. And I think over time this has really evolved into a really great policy that not only fits our community, but just the character of Boulder City. So.
I'd just like to say great job of no, I can't say it. Collaboration. And because it turned, I think everybody said it very well here besides me, that it really has turned out to be a really nice policy and very well thought out, and that's by all the input and everybody being involved. So thank you very much for chairing that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. So, Councilman, would you like to phrase for staff direction that we're interested in giving the staff for direction on the policy of memorials and monuments?
Yes, sir. I just would word, I don't know that it requires a motion or vote, but that we agree upon directing staff to proceed with this and make it city policy.
Thank you. Any objections?
None for me.
Thank you.
We need a second to the motion, please.
So we do need a
second it.
motion and a vote then?
I'll second it.
Yeah, it's just direction on here. I didn't know if that required a whole motion and vote.
I accept
Okay.
your motion.
Then that's a motion. Yeah.
I accept
And I second it.
your second. All those in, any discussion?
No.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Unanimous. Appreciate your work and thank all of you and all of the committee's work that went into this. Many people had good efforts on this. Feel good about it. Thank you all. So we will now move to city manager's report, claims paid report.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Mayor and Council, this is item number 10, the claims paid report for the month of February. There's nothing unusual to report, but I stand for any questions you may have.
Any questions? See none, we accept it. And we'll go to number 11, city manager's financial report unaudited.
So today we have before you the financial report for February of 2023. And while there's nothing unusual or of note to necessarily report on, I'd like to turn your attention to page 280. That is the Aviation Enterprise Fund. So you have a handout before you, and we have added a line on the expenses side to account and show you and the public airport professional charges and legal fees, just so that we're being transparent and open, sharing information with the public. So you'll see that for February, 101,000 of that is for legal fees and 26,000 was for consulting fees. So I'll stand for any questions, but we will include this in subsequent reports in the coming months.
Any questions, observations? And then do we need to accept the report? We accept it anyway. All right. That brings us to public comment. Anybody who would like to give public comment? And if you're on the phone, call now, 702-589-9629. And we'll wait for a little while.
Did you bring binoculars?
See none on the phone. Public comment is closed. City Council's reports. At this point, we'll start over here. Councilwoman Booth.
I have nothing to report. Thank you. I know.
Whoa, we're right on schedule.
I know.
We're gonna see
wanna
the
get you
planets.
outside,
We're gonna
outside.
see the planets. Councilwoman.
I also have nothing to report at this time.
Councilman Walton, the pressure is on you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll report on a couple things. We did receive a lot of public comment in our meeting that addressed the options of water reuse or reclamation. A lot of community members called in, wrote in, attended, and provided comment. And one of the comments that received several favorable statements was one about the possibility of some reuse farming in the community. We happen to have an appointment, the city manager, myself, and our utilities director to go to Las Vegas to see an initiative that they've started in Ward 5 called vertical farming with containers and kind of in an urban setting. So I just want to report that we're going to go look into that and see what's being done in Las Vegas and gather some information and consider that with all of the other options that have been put on the table before us. And I think that's about all that I have to report on, sir, so thank you.
Thank you. I think realistically, we have a lot of things going on, and the brevity of the meeting certainly doesn't reflect on all of the things that have gone on. Appreciate everybody's involvement and doing so many things behind the scenes, not just on the council, but staff and our citizens who have been very involved, and we appreciate living in Boulder City because that's what we do. Councilwoman Jorgensen?
Sorry, I changed my mind. I just wanted to be able to share along the same vein that a lot of people were interested, and we are having a staff-led discussion on our wastewater options, and that is going to be April 4th at 5 p.m. at the Smith Building. Is that correct? So please come so that you can weigh in or look at and be informed as to the decisions that lie before us.
Any other things? If not, meeting adjourned.